When most people think about Russia's growing influence in Africa, they picture soldiers, weapons, and deals over oil and gold. But the real story is quieter than that, and in many ways, far more powerful. Russia is not just sending troops or buying minerals. It is building power plants, training engineers, signing energy contracts, and slowly embedding itself into the systems that keep African nations running. This is not about the next election cycle. This is about the next 50 years. Africa has one problem that sits above almost everything else, and that problem is electricity. Across the continent, power cuts are not emergencies. They are part of daily life. Factories shut down because the power cannot stay on long enough to keep machines running. Hospitals depend on generators. Business owners have to budget for fuel before they can even think about growth. Africa is home to more than 1.5 billion people. Yet it produces less electricity than some single industrialized countries. That gap is not just uncomfortable, it is a barrier to everything, from jobs and manufacturing to hospitals and schools. What African governments need more than anything else is what energy experts call base load power. That means electricity that runs around the clock, every single day, in every season, regardless of whether it is raining or sunny or windy. Hydropower depends on rainfall, solar depends on sunshine and expensive storage technology. Gas depends on pipelines, security, and political stability. None of these options are fully reliable on their own. Nuclear power, on the other hand, can provide massive, steady electricity for decades once a plant is built. One nuclear facility can power entire cities, industrial zones, and rail networks without interruption. Western countries know this too, but when African nations approached Western partners about nuclear cooperation, the experience was often frustrating. Financing came with political conditions. Environmental approvals dragged on for years. Training programs were limited. In some cases, African countries were quietly told that nuclear power was too complicated or too risky for them to handle. The message, whether intended or not, was that nuclear energy was a privilege for developed nations. Russia came with a completely different offer. Through its state nuclear company called Rosatom, Russia does not just sell reactors. It offers what you might call a complete package. That package includes financing the construction, building the plant, supplying the nuclear fuel, maintaining the equipment, training local engineers and scientists, and providing technical support that can stretch on for 40 to 60 years. Russia also offers scholarships for African students to study nuclear science at Russian universities. For countries that have been waiting years for reliable electricity, this kind of offer is very hard to turn down. The most advanced example of this strategy is already taking shape in Egypt. At a site called El Dabar, Russia is financing and building one of the largest nuclear power plants on the African continent. The project costs close to $29 billion, with Russia covering the bulk of that through long-term loans. The repayment plan stretches decades into the future, tied to the electricity revenues the plant will eventually generate. This is not short-term aid. It is a deep financial and energy commitment that will shape Egypt's relationship with Russia for generations. Ethiopia is another country where Russia has made significant moves. The two countries signed an agreement to plan and build Ethiopia's first nuclear power station. The deal includes technical planning, engineer training, and building the institutions needed to manage a nuclear sector. For a country that has struggled with unreliable electricity for decades, nuclear energy represents a genuine opportunity to industrialize faster and lift millions of people out of energy poverty. But it also means that Russia will be deeply involved in Ethiopia's energy system for a very long time. In Niger, the situation takes a slightly different shape. Niger is one of the world's largest producers of uranium, which is the raw material used to fuel nuclear reactors. Russia and Niger have signed agreements not just on building power plants, but on uranium extraction itself. This means Russia is not only looking to sell nuclear technology to Africa, it is also working to secure the raw materials it needs to fuel reactors around the world. Niger becomes part of the supply chain, not just a customer. Beyond these three countries, at least 15 African nations have signed some form of nuclear cooperation agreement with Russia. These include Algeria, Rwanda, Uganda, Ghana, South Africa, Tanzania, Burkina Faso, and others. Some agreements involve full reactor construction plans. Others cover training programs, research centers, policy frameworks, or early feasibility studies. Taken individually, each agreement might seem like a straightforward development deal. Taken together, they form a pattern that tells a much bigger story. Russia is not simply selling reactors one by one. It is training the engineers who will run Africa's nuclear sector. It is supplying the fuel those reactors will need for decades. It is setting the technical standards and safety systems that African regulators will follow. It is embedding Russian technology, Russian expertise, and Russian financial relationships into the very foundations of African energy systems. Once that infrastructure is in place, it is almost impossible to remove. You cannot cancel a nuclear plant the way you cancel a weapons contract. The plant is in the ground, connected to the national grid, and essential to keeping the lights on. This is where the strategy becomes genuinely powerful from Russia's perspective. Nuclear cooperation creates influence that survives elections, survives changes in government, and even survives diplomatic tensions. As long as the reactor is running and the loans need repaying, the relationship continues. For African governments, this offers something valuable in the short term, a path to industrial electricity without waiting for Western approval or meeting Western political conditions. But it also creates a new kind of dependency that deserves serious attention. The real risk for Africa is not nuclear energy itself. Many countries around the world use nuclear power safely and successfully. The risk is in the terms. If agreements are signed without full transparency, costs can quietly rise over time. If local expertise is not genuinely built up alongside the construction, African countries end up permanently dependent on Russian technicians and Russian fuel. If institutions are weak and oversight is poor, safety risks grow. What starts as an energy solution can slowly become energy capture, a situation where a country cannot easily change direction even if it wants to. Russia understands exactly how this dynamic works, which is why it designs its packages to be as convenient and comprehensive as possible. The more complete the package, the harder it is to replace any part of it. That convenience has real value, but it also comes with a price that is not always written clearly in the contract. The broader picture here matters beyond just Africa and Russia. China is also expanding its nuclear diplomacy across the continent, quietly competing with Russia for contracts and long-term influence. The United States and Europe are watching these developments closely, aware that their own dominance over global nuclear standards and fuel markets is being challenged. Africa is becoming a key arena in a much larger competition between global powers. And the decisions African governments make today about nuclear partnerships will determine who has leverage over the continent's energy future for the next half-century. The question Africa must ask is not whether nuclear power is a good idea. It can absolutely be part of a strong development strategy. The real question is, who controls the switch? If African nations negotiate these deals carefully, build genuine local expertise, diversify their partners, and insist on transparent contracts, nuclear energy can be a bridge to real industrial power and genuine independence. But if these deals are treated as political shortcuts or symbols of progress, without the hard work of building strong institutions alongside them, Africa risks trading one form of dependency for another. Russia came to Africa with reactors instead of just soldiers because it understands that the most lasting form of influence is not military. It is structural. It lives inside the power grid. inside the training programs, and inside the debt repayment schedules. Africa now faces a quiet but historic choice, not whether to embrace nuclear power, but how to do it on terms that serve African people first. If this kind of deep, honest storytelling about the forces shaping Africa's future is what you have been looking for, you are in the right place. Subscribe to One Africa, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what is really happening on this continent. The biggest battles for Africa's future are not being fought on battlefields. They are being fought in contracts, power plants, and boardrooms. And we will keep telling those stories until the whole world is paying attention.